Okay, we are recording. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
I'm going to go ahead and call to order this meeting of the Green Bay Public Art Commission, Wednesday, July 22nd, 8 a.m. Roll call, myself present, Alex Zacharias,
Present.
Lynn Gerlach.
Present.
Lynn, am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Matt Buchanan.
Present.
Ken Hutchison.
Here.
And our liaisons, Beth Lemke.
Present.
Paul Grawl. And Matt Vandenboomen.
Here.
Excellent. Our next item is approval of the agenda.
I'm moving to approve.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? This is a little harder to tell on Zoom. Okay. All right, and then our next item is approval of minutes from the April 22nd, 2020. Before we jump in with a motion, does anyone have anything that they want to ask or comment on the minutes from the last meeting?
Will it be okay if I abstain because I wasn't there and,
Certainly.
okay.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any abstentions?
Yes, I abstain.
All right. And any opposed? All right. Let's get into the regular business. First item is to consider consideration with possible action on the selection of a project by staff to be located at Dan's Park. The selected concept will then be developed into an RFP to find an artist to fabricate the piece. Laura, do you have information you want to share about this beyond what's in the board packet?
Yes. So this kind of came out of nowhere almost. It's a nice blessing once again. Back in May, the RDA approved to reallocate some funds. So they allocated $30,000 towards Dan Park. $15,000 of that is being put towards tree memorial that is being put in there. And then they allocated $15,000 for an art piece. So since then, I've been working with Parks staff as far as developing a few options for artwork to be placed at the site. We have 3 options available in the packet. I can bring it up if anyone wants to see the options if they don't have it handy.
I have it handy, but I would love to see it on the screen because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me altogether.
Okay. Absolutely. Bear with me as I struggle to screen share, even though this has been the world we're in. Okay. Can you see that all?
Yes.
Okay. So we developed 3 different options. One contains artistic seating, which is kind of just some example photos that we have here. And then the site map, which it would be located within that central tree planting that we have there. The second option would be just to implement a freestanding sculpture of some sort. Once again, here's some option photos that we have as inspiration, I guess. But the location for that would actually be placed near the road of Baston Street and McCaw, kind of towards, not necessarily the entrance of the park, but for those passing by on the sidewalk, that would be the entrance into this 100-tree memorial. And then the third option we developed was a sculptural entryway or gateway. Once again, here's a few inspiration photos that we gathered. And then that would actually be located on the trail portion into that 100-tree memorial area. And then I think included in here, park staff has ample collection of driftwood that, if possible, they would like to see incorporated into one of these pieces, so that is material that the artist could use to create whatever piece they're interested in.
Can we have all of that or just, I like it all.
One of each, please.
I
So
agree.
first, let me ask, does that clarify for you, Lynn, what you were looking to get clarification on? Great. Okay. So Laura, what all do you need from us? It looks like you've got a sense of the things that you're going to be including as possibilities in the RFP. Do you need any more input from us?
Yeah, as far as timelines go, once again, this has that quick approaching November deadline that we need to spend the money. So I think that is going to be a factor potentially as we consider some of these options. I'm assuming exceeding, it might be easier to implement something like that as compared to something that would need or something a little more elaborate than that. Speaking with park staff, I think Corey might be on. If not, discussing with park staff, they're planning on having those trees installed like mid to late October. So planting and stuff, it's probably best for us to have that sculpture installed or whatever art piece it is installed after those trees are planted.
Yeah, that certainly makes the most sense to me. So you're suggesting that the trickiness of the timeline here, obviously, one is the RFP needs to go out, but also that the window for execution has to be between mid-October and November.
Yes,
So that seems like important information for the RFP.
absolutely.
Okay, what else?
Other than that, I can't think of a whole lot. I know Parks wants to have more of a natural theme to it, and I think that's enhanced with that driftwood if artists choose to use that option. I think that is a potential gain because 15,000 isn't, I mean, it's a decent amount of money. I would definitely take it, but for developing an art piece, it's going to run out having those materials available. I think that is a huge bonus for something like this.
Is there any suggestion that we actually include the driftwood as materials for the proposal and leaving it wide open?
That would be my preference. And then Corey and I had actually discussed having scheduled times so that we could be at the driftwood pile. So if artists are interested in viewing it, they can check it out beforehand. So that would definitely be my preference, is to have that be in the RFP.
Can I interject? I really liked the way you phrased it on the agenda item informational on here, that it was optional, and we could probably as a committee provide extra points if they incorporate the driftwood into the designs. However, if someone wants to go and maybe they have their own materials, or $15,000, it does seem like a lot, but if we're going to be making gateway or something like that, that'll be eaten up pretty quick. But I don't think we should restrict the artist's imagination to having to use it. So I think maybe in the RFP, we could provide incentivization to use and incorporate the driftwood, because I think it's totally awesome. And I'm really happy that the park has created a stockpile and not just thrown it away, because that's like very valuable stuff. So I like the idea of using it for sure and giving more points to it, but I don't know if we want to restrict the artist's imagination to having to use it.
Can we just add a clause that says those proposals that incorporate use of the riftwood as primary materials will receive preferential consideration?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's common in RFPs, in my experience.
Other questions and comments from the commissioner liaisons?
I just was curious if Corey is on the call from Parks Department. I didn't know if she had any comments or needed to weigh in at all.
Yeah, pretty much whatever, or everything that Laura shared, I agree with. I also agree that I don't think we should limit it necessarily to having to incorporate the stockpile wood, because I don't want it to be too limiting. And I know, like with some of our playgrounds, we'll when we do our playground evaluations, when we get proposals, we'll like do a certain percentage of like play value, creativity, that type of thing. And so I'm just wondering if maybe this could have like a percentage rating as well, where you give a certain amount of points or whatever for including that driftwood, if that's the desire from the group.
And that sounds in line with what Kent suggested. Anyone else? So the consideration on the table is, Laura, one more question. It says the possible action is selection of a project concept developed by staff. Are you asking us to limit the scope of seating, gateway, that kind of thing?
That is correct.
Oh, okay. What are thoughts on that?
Well, if you just put one seat, then it becomes a game of musical chairs, and I'm kidding, but sort of not kidding. Other than that, I'm kind of open to anything.
I would weigh in that the $15,000 budget would kind of limit the scope as far as the gateway option, even though I think the gateway option is awesome, and it would be set back from the road, so it wouldn't be getting as much viewing according to the map. So I'd be more inclined to go for the freestanding sculpture or the bench. Is that what we're doing? We're trying to decide like one,
Yes.
2, or 3. Okay. So I would prefer either a bench or a sculptural entity over the gateway idea, even though I do think the gateway idea should stay on the table, or still be considered by parks and the GBPAC, because it's totally awesome. That'd be a super cool park. I love that park already. I go there all the time. I think this is going to be really, really great for the park. So thank you, parks, for bringing it to our attention.
Is there, I don't know, I meant to drive by the park actually, and I forgot, but is there a need for additional seating?
Right now, the seating is quite limited. I believe there's a couple of benches in the small playground area that's there, but other than that, and then actually kind of from the main Baird Creek Trail, there's also a little bench kind of, so it's not directly in the park, but within the park itself, there is not a lot of seating. And we just did a master plan as well for the park, so we're looking to incorporate a dog park at some point and kind of relocate the playground and other features like that. So as of right now, there is not a lot of seating other than in the playground area.
Okay, right, other input from the commissioner liaisons on seating, gate, or freestanding sculpture?
I
have
like the idea.
No, go right ahead.
No, I like the idea of seating.
Question, is it possible, for folks with disability, or is that going to be a challenge?
Currently, it's not ADA accessible, but the master plan does show a path going through the middle of that tree planting and connecting to the Bear Creek Trail. So it would become ADA accessible.
Corey, are you looking for, there's on the chair map, there's 2 sites. There's one on either side of that proposed path. Are we looking for one chair entity, or is it just one chair entity, or do you have a certain amount of people that you're hoping that will have a seating at one time?
Not necessarily. I think my preference would be to be able to mirror something. I think it's kind of nice, like for conversation or just for aesthetics. So I guess to have at least something on either side of the path would aesthetically look nice, but I don't know that it's necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I guess I would just weigh in personally as saying the idea of seating up to me as well. And partially, I think maybe because the portfolio of public art is so heavy on the freestanding sculpture side. We don't have a lot of interactive art meets function pieces. And if there's also a need in the park, that appeals to me. So that's my personal opinion. Laura, how do you want to do this? Do you want to just kind of hear from everyone individually as to what they think, or do you want us to actually vote on some?
If you could vote, that would be
Okay.
We'll just go forward with the one option and get it going.
All right. So how many have a preference, or is there any other conversation before we take this vote?
I guess I just would like to also point out, I know Laura said that we're looking at the time frame for installation for, that mid to. We could work around that if necessary. It just, I think, would be preferable to have it installed after the trees. So we could work around it if need be. So as far as timeline and figuring that out, I just wanted to point that out.
Okay.
And I think with this being seating, unless it has some sort of attached poured footing that it would need, with seating, I'm assuming that's something that could be movable, that park staff could probably move into place after those places. Is that accurate, Corey?
Yes, we could, but we do typically anchor ours because it tends to wander if we don't. So I think that could be a good suggestion too for the RFP to maybe consider that as part of the scope.
Kelly, should I just go ahead and make a proposal or a motion then?
I think so, because some of these other things sound like logistics that can be worked out in the RFP in terms of flexibility of time and installation. But let's do our job here and account for what preference we have in terms of the sort of piece we're looking for.
Okay, it sounds like people are leaning towards the bench, so I'll just make a motion that we approve the recommendation for option number 1, which is the artistic seating.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
1, 2,
Just a
3,
vote on it.
Aye.
4. We got 4. Those opposed? Okay. Lynn, are you abstaining for this one?
No, I said aye. I just didn't
sorry,
raise my hand.
I missed you. Okay. So it looks like we have a full consensus on this. All right. have we done our due diligence or, okay, yep, we're ready to move on. Okay, the next item is consideration with possible action to approve the mural design presented by Astro Park Neighborhood Association to be placed on the east wall of the South Monroe and East Mason Street underpass. Before we launch into this agenda item, I'm going to have to, I'm apologizing before I have to interrupt any conversation. Alex, I may have to turn the proceedings over to you at 8:29 because I have another meeting for the university. I apologize. So if all of a sudden I'll wave my hand before I disappear. Okay, Laura, do you want to introduce this project to us?
So Astro Park Neighborhood Association sent out a RFP requesting a mural that spoke to the neighborhood. The location is on that underpass of Mason Street and Monroe. Before they can get the okay from DPW, since it is DPW property, before they can get the okay to move forward with their project, DPW just wanted the Arts Commission to review the design and approve it. If they had any suggestions or anything, now would be the time to get those as well. And I believe we do have a few members from Astro Park Neighborhood Association today at the meeting, if up any questions to them as well.
Cheryl, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify something. We're actually the Astor Neighborhood Association. We don't have park in there. It sounds like it's kind of a big thing to the historic districts. We're the ANA. But that's okay. I just wanted, Debbie Dean is here who really championed this project for our association. And we're very excited about it. It's a project we get to do during COVID, which neighborhood associations are very limited in what we can do during this time. So really, if you have any questions about how we RFP'd it or our neighborhood association, how we handled this, Debbie is the lead on that. But when I spoke with the Department of Public Works, this has got to go to improvement and services for approval because it is on a public structure. And the director said to me, go to the PAC and get that design approved first. So then we can take an approved design to that standing committee for approval and then on to council.
Great. Perhaps we should proceed by opening the floor so we can hear from the Astor Neighborhood Association.
Move to open the floor.
Second.
Do we have to take a vote on this? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Do we have anyone from who would like to comment? I would.
Are you for me to comment or your people? Oh, okay.
If you wouldn't mind, could you please state your full name and your residential home address?
Sure. My name is Debbie Dean, and I live at 1010 South Jackson Street here in Green Bay. The Neighborhood Association applied for a mini grant to Green Bay neighborhoods. And actually, this is the second go around. We put in the application first, the first one, and we just proposed a concept. And they said, no, you need to send out an RFP. So we did. And that was sent out through various community organizations and social media. So we had some responses. The association looked over the responses and picked the Foxtrot, which you have before you, as being of both the historical nature of the neighborhood in the font design, and then of the representation of the neighborhood with the fox because of the history of fur trade and also the Fox River. Particularly like how it is trotting across, and it's actually trotting from one neighborhood to the other. If you kind of look at the design that way and think about it. So in essence, it's kind of another underneath that underpass. But one of the things I like the most, you said I could screen share it. Cheryl has now screen shared the design, which I'm sure you have in front of you. But one of the things that we liked again was the big historical font, Welcome to Astor. And then also just really singularly the fox. It's going to be hard to see that mural. There you go. It's going to be hard to see that mural. So that the brightness of that against the wall and the movement is something that really attracted us.
Thank you, Debbie.
Yep.
Commissioner Liaisons, is there anything you'd like to ask of Debbie while the floor is open?
I don't have any questions. I think it's fantastic.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'm sorry, just to interject. And this is a submission from Bo Thomas, correct? Who has done a lot of work in Green Bay. And he knows that we have a deadline of October 31st to have this installation. We should be all good to go within the timeline to get that up there.
Great. If there are no further questions of Debbie, can I have a motion to close the floor?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so do we need to have any discussion about this, Commission, or are we, we're just going to offer our approval?
It's wonderful.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, may I have a motion to, let me make sure I'm getting the language right for what we're doing here. A motion to approve the mural design.
So moved.
Motion.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that looks like 1, 2,
Aye.
3. Kent and Alex?
Yep.
Great. That is consensus. Okay, finally, moving on. It's beautiful, Debbie.
All right, thank you.
Go forth and bring art to the world.
Thank you for your work, Debbie.
Again, thank you very much. All right.
On to agenda item 3, consideration with possible action to select a finalist for the alley transformation project from the redeveloped designs for the new location at 112 North Adams Street. And this is the point at which I need to leave all you fine folks. Alex, I'm going to hand it over to you. And as I do so, perhaps Laura, you lay out what you need from us on this go round.
First off, bye, Kelly.
Good
I
job.
do have Kelly's scores, so her voice will not be discounted in our forward. This has been a long process for this project. For anyone who doesn't remember, initially we were proposing alley installation, a sculptural immersive installation on Bodart Street. Unfortunately, due to late coming restrictions on the site, it just created more issues than it was worth. So we went out and found a new site. And in my opinion, I actually think it's a much better site for these installations. It's at 112 North Adams Street. I say alley, but really it's, I call it a green space also, even though there's very little green space. But from there, since the new site is located within a historical district, we had to have approval from Landmarks Commission on all of the designs first before they came here. So since the redesign occurred, we had 5 submissions. Those 5 submissions went through the Landmarks Commission during their July 13th meeting. 2 of them had to be reworked a little bit because Landmarks requested that no item be attached to the building. So now all of them are, they fit within the new requirements and they are what you were able to review. Thank you to everyone who submitted their scores. It was a very tight tight review. You're all very generous with your with your points, but I can provide that information at a later point too. But I think a lot of how we're going to decide this is through our conversations today. And I know that a few of the artists are online with us also. So at a certain point in time, we can open the floor, and if you have any questions for them, we can ask them at that time.
So I have a question. Is there like a top 3 or something like that? Or how are we going to go about this?
There is a top 3. So from all the scores that I received, so I calculated the scores in 2 ways, even though I'm not a math wizard. I did it 2 different ways. So I calculated all of the commissioner scores that I received, which is you guys get the actual votes, you get the voice, but then I also calculated in all of the commissioner scores, liaisons, and then staff scores as well. So they came out a little bit different, but overall, the top 3 choices remained the top 3. The order just shifted slightly. But the top 3 submissions that you really approved of was Salva Jelly Bloom, Wish Walk, and then the Urban Garden.
Any discussions about those top 3, or do we just go down in order? Or
Be a bad idea unless anybody has any outstanding specific questions to the top 3, or actually any of them. I guess those were my top 3, and I think all of them were great, and I think everyone should be applauded. All the artists did a lot of work to make them, so thank you to everybody who spent the time to put a proposal together. That's valuable time, and thank you. So if anybody has any specific questions, we should probably start there. I'm wondering.
can I clarify one thing? So when we do choose the one, is there any possibility that the ones that we don't choose may be something that we could consider in the future or in another location? Just curious.
I would definitely be in favor of that. That's not to say that the artist can't take their design elsewhere and have it up in a different community. But I mean, I cannot thank the artists enough for the work and energy and patience that they have had through this process. And there really does show in these proposals. So I'm glad it's not down to me. It's a pretty tough choice.
Yeah.
So, Laura, as far as the city approves these 3 art projects as is, or is there modifications necessary, or?
If there are modifications, it's up to you guys. The only other modifications I could really see is as far as footing placement or anything like that. We haven't done a site review through Digger's Hotline or anything like that. So, I mean, some pieces may need to shift, but if there are certain things that you take issue with, now's the time to address those things.
I didn't hear from everybody. Come on, chime in. We got to get through this.
I'll be happy to say something, being the newest person, and sometimes I think of myself as sort of the village idiot about these things, and sometimes it's good to have the village idiot at the table. So, I'm not an artist by any stretch of the imagination. These were wonderful, and I also was on the meeting where they said that we could not have anything attached to the buildings. And so then I was able to go back and see how some of these had been modified. These were my top. I would just like to say about the urban garden. I believe in the first iteration, that gaunt hair was up on a building up high, and I found it threatening and scary. And now it's down on the ground and it doesn't bother me. I like the immersive feel of it. The salvia jelly is also very immersive, and I think it's very awesome about making it a recycling effort also. But I just feel like Urban Garden is much more Green Bay than a great big jellyfish. And Wish Walk is beautiful, but it just doesn't have that immersive feel. I think it's so easy to walk past it and ignore it. Those are my thoughts.
Does anybody have anything they'd like to say about the ones, the not top three, like the 4 and 5 that Laura recounted as the number 4 and 5 that we just want to make a mention on? Otherwise, maybe we can just limit it to the conversation of the top 3.
I'll say just for the B2B Green Bay, I liked the idea of adding that musical element to this piece. There might be some concerns with too much sound in a downtown environment. I'm sure we would have been able to figure a way around that, but I think any time we can add another sense into art, I think that's great. So I did like that a lot. Speaking for that one piece. Didn't make the top 3, but I think all 5 of these options are incredible, and I'm so happy we've got this great group of artists submitting projects. So I think we're in good shape.
Mm-hmm. Then, Alex, do you think we should open the floor for the artists who were selected for the top 3 to just mention anything they would like, since we do have some artists on the call?
Okay, I motion to open the floor to artists.
A second.
All those in favor? All those against? All right. Can you please, artists, can you give us your name and address, please?
If you'd like to say something.
Hi, my name is Naomi Mose Jenkins, and I'm a partner with Shanna Colts. And my address is 146 Lazare in Green Bay. So I'm one of the designers for the Urban Garden. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Naomi.
Yes.
Is there any questions?
Any questions?
I did have one, Naomi, and I asked it to Laura before this, and she answered it, but maybe you can clarify. The butterflies that you're proposed to make 100 of, can you explain a little bit more of the composition of those? I know you work with resins and fiberglass. Can you give us a little bit of background on what those might be made out of and what they might look like?
Well, they're going to have a substructure of steel. So I'm going to make the form, they all will be welded with steel, have some strength. And then I'm going to use fiberglass for the wings. So they still have a fairy-like look to them. So they're light and airy, but they'll still have a lot of strength. And they'll be mounted on the cold pressed steel and then in many different attachments, so that what's going to happen is they're going to look like they're flying all over the wall, but not on the wall. And I will probably tint the fiberglass so it has a little bit of a cast color, but not too much. We want it to look real soft and pretty.
Okay, so they'll be kind of transparent?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, thanks, Ken.
Mm-hmm.
I have one question for Naomi.
Yes.
I see that you were recommending some plantings as well, some actual like flowers and things, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Some perennials.
Excellent. I was just curious, were you proposing that the city maintain those plantings, or the adjacent property owners? What's the thought for the future of maintenance of those pieces?
Well, who is maintaining that area right now? The property
owners.
The property owners. The plants we're proposing really super high maintenance, echinacea, salvia, things that should grow pretty well to be pruned. I mean, not pruned, but weeded around just like they're now. De Pere took on the plantings for the De Pere alley. So that's a good question, but I would pretty much assume that there would be another entity that would take over after we are finished with our part of it. But how do the business owners feel about it? On a few more plants.
We are still working through the legal contract for the owner. I think that could be something discussed in further detail in that lease agreement as far as who is maintaining it. As Naomi said, there's already a fair bit of planting within there, and I mean they've been taking beautiful care of it. So
that's pretty much what we felt. We're just adding value to the area with more plants and just making a bit more lush. And I would think that they would probably take that on, but if they feel it's going to be an issue, we could not add the plants, but we just wanted more foliage and to add more color to circumvent what the sculptures are and the pictures. So, but good question.
I definitely agree. It would. Yeah, I definitely agree. It'll totally add to the space and just make it more inviting. That was just one detail I wasn't sure had been worked out yet. I'm sure they're forward, whether it's the city, the building, the property owner, DGBI, business owners. I'm sure somebody would be willing to take that on. I just wondered if we'd figured out who yet. So thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Naomi.
I was going to say, any other questions for me?
I had a few questions from the property owner. He was unable to make our meeting this morning, but he had a few questions for your submission. And just wondering if there was any concepts geared up already for what the images on the panels would be.
Shanna does have some of those, and I believe they're in some proposal. If you look at some of the images that she had, she's trying to, we want to send a message of hope in beauty coming out of decay and darkness. And there were some pictures in our proposal that she had as concept ideas. Also, we would be more than happy to meet with the building owners or whomever wants to meet with us to actually do a final choice of what is going to go up there. We did that with De Pere, and it was actually kind of fun to have them be involved with the project too. They can help kind of theme what they want or pick out what they like from her collections.
Yeah. And then the other question he had was, and I think you kind of touched the flies, but he wanted to know what the rabbit was being made of and how that's going to withstand handling and all of that.
Well, the rabbit will be welded. I already have the rabbits to get it done by the deadline. It is composed right now of rebar, and it's going to have an extra thick layer, fiberglass and resin on it, since it's going to be more at eye level, so people look to it closely. And it will, I also use epoxy clay, so it's all free-formed. It's not, molded or anything like that. Then I'll be using paints like automotive paint. The sculptures in De Pere are lasting very well, but I'm going to actually reinforce this one twice as much more because it is going to be so much more at the eye level of people. I'm going to use cold pressed steel to mount it. It will be strong, and it's going to be triply reinforced, I guess is a good word for it. So it'll be fine out in the weather, and it should hold up well against people, things like that.
Okay. And then the last question he had was, is there any option to explore other features in addition to butterflies to hide those structural elements? I don't know if he's not super fond of butterflies or what he's thinking of, maybe birds or insects of some sort.
Sure, I can adapt that. That's all fun. I don't mind adapting things. So and I do a lot of birds. If are you talking about the owner of 411, the red brick building?
Correct.
Yes, I'm happy to open a discussion as long as we can keep the cost wise about the same. There's not a problem with that. That to be nice too. I just thought butterflies had kind of a ethereal feeling. It's about kind of how the lifespan of the butterfly going from a larvae to a caterpillar to the butterfly was kind of also a hopeful feeling. This world right now, what's going on, I just want people to be uplifted when they go through there. But the butterfly was my first thought, but maybe they have other ideas. I can certainly adapt. No problem. It's actually fun.
Those are all the questions that the property owner had.
Okay. Thanks, Laura. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else have questions for Naomi? All right, how about, should we move on to the other artists that want to speak up?
Yeah, how about, is there someone who represents the Wish Walk that was number on the top 3?
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay Glatz, artist. I split my time between New Orleans and Salem, Wisconsin. So grew up in the area and very excited at the opportunity and appreciative of Laura's time and all the wonderful proposals. So thank you for your consideration.
Can you give us your address really quick?
Oh yes, 3301 252nd Avenue, Salem, Wisconsin. So Wish Walk, obviously with the location change, was modified quite a bit. I was really actually very excited about the new location. I thought it offered a lot of different elements to play with. So for my work, I really like to think about the time and the place. I think that's what makes really, strong public. I looked at both the building structures of the various designs and the one thing, with the 2 different styles between the Romanesque and the Art Nouveau, the archways really spoke to me. And so I wanted to bring that element so that it's something that between the 2 buildings can kind of become a bridging element between those 2. Initially, when I saw the piece, I was looking at potentially creating something over the sidewalk. And then reading through the RFP, that was something that it was discouraged against. So the thought about how do I balance that sidewalk with something that's within the space, creating an additional walkway that has the archways that you walk through. For me, it was a great moment of sort of decision and also talking about public art. It was almost a before and after picture in one image. You can see a regular sidewalk, but see a sidewalk that's been elevated. And particularly in this moment in time, I think we as a society are, have this, as we're at home and as, sort of the world as we know it has been paused, we have this moment to dream and to imagine. And for me, this was the sort of dual walkway spoke to that. And that, there's the world that we have, but then also there's this opportunity for us to see the world as it could be and how we can dream and imagine and some of the wishes that hope for the world moving forward. So that's those elements of doing some community outreach with the Public Art Commission and to hear from the community. What are the things that you want from your city and to bring those into the brick elements that you walk below. I love the fact that the building has government workers. So that's something that, is a visual reminder for them as they walk through the space of, who are they serving and what are the things constituents would hope that they keep in their minds as they go about their daily work. And then, lighting is a big element of my work. I love what lighting can do for public space. I looked at the building renderings and, the area at night and it is dark. And so even, in a city as safe as Green Bay, there's still that element of urban lighting that can make a space feel more friendly and beautiful. And so that's what I hoped, and now if the installation would be installed, there's a constant light. And then moving forward with that element of play as people walk through at night, walk through the structure, the colors, they're activating the colors. So they have a sense of they take place in the magic of what that piece can be, and it's sort of a surprise element. And I like to do that in my work. It's kind of hidden that you need to engage with the piece to discover, and that creates a really beautiful moment, I find. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the piece.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. And I do have a few questions about the composition of the art. If I understand it correctly, they're going to be steel?
Yes.
Powder coated steel? Okay, so what would be the diameter of the steel?
We're looking at, a 12 inch, so 1 foot. And that would be, what you can't really see is the design is that they would have, there's sort of an H, so that there's an undercoat, so that would allow, so 12 foot across and then 2 feet on each side to create sort of a mini archway that protects the lighting installation, the lighting component from weather.
Okay, so it would be like a 12-inch diameter tubing, though, that is kind of bent over.
Correct.
The top with a channel in there that has the LED lighting.
Yes.
Okay, and then the color would correspond. The color of the lighting would correspond powder coat finish.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, and that would be motion sensitive, so you could like walk through and they'd turn on as you're walking through, and then turn off immediately as you exit, kind of.
Yeah, there would be a sort of echo, so that wouldn't, if they, that's something that we can determine whether it's a minute that they stay on after or 30 seconds, so that there's that sense of, as you walk through, you could look behind and see all of the colors. So there's sort of an echo of your memory walking through the space.
Yeah, I think that's appealing to me, that concept of engagement and play, like you said. It might even be fun if it was like 2 seconds long, where you would turn off, you could see it, but then it would really track your movement within the I mean, maybe you can set that. I don't know.
Yeah,
but I think
that's programmable.
Yeah, it's this fun element of this piece.
Thank you.
I agree. I really love the playfulness of it. I love the lighting element. I wonder if you could speak just a little bit to the maintenance of the lighting, what we might expect as we take ownership over this piece going forward. Will we have to replace lighting a few years down the road, and what those costs might be for us?
So with it just being one light, it's a very minimal installation, and it's very easy to maintain. All of the lighting that we would use would be, have a grade of like -40 temperature, so that would allow it to withstand. I mean, for one of the similar pieces that I used, we were in Toronto in the middle of winter for 2 months, so we know that it can withhold against some strong structures. So I don't have exact pieces because we bulk priced all of the lighting, but it would be a minimal cost, nothing more than like $100 or so if the lighting were to fail. But this similar lighting, like I said, we've used it in many sorts of environments, in the desert and in the frozen tundra, so it works well and withstands pretty strongly. But there would at some point, I think, be a point where that's lighting maybe have to be replaced, but that would be installation. I like to keep things very simple with my pieces so that there's not a lot of you wouldn't need me, and that's something we would provide a maintenance guide and provide that to the city so that it's really easy for you to interchange the pieces. And of course, I'm available to help as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Lindsay? Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you so much.
Is there would like to speak?
Selva Jelly Bloom.
Yeah, I'm here. My name is Brandon Minga. My address is 2209 North 57th Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was born and raised in Kenosha, and then moved to Milwaukee for school and never left.
Can you, so the sketches are fantastic, and then the rendering of the jellyfish in the
the site is I think pretty realistic as far as what we could expect from a real sculpture. But the one concerns that I have is how is it going to be mounted, what type of footing, and then well, first of all, let's start with that. Like what do you think the weight of this will be? Are you planning to mount this to the ground?
Sure. Yeah. So within that, we'll have some straight up and down steel rods. They'll be anchored into the ground. Of course, we'll have to do some ground research with Digger's Hotline just to make sure. So those those concrete pads will be attached to concrete pylons that go down into the ground. So that way this thing can't tip over or, that kind of thing. Also, the tentacles coming off also provide anchoring for it as well. So those are steel rod, and that'll help it from swaying and doing its thing. But yeah, otherwise, I guess not shown in these sketches are those straight up and down, because I'm going to kind of disguise those in so you won't necessarily see them right away. Be super secure and safe.
Like sonotube foundation kind of thing that go into the ground 4 feet or so. Okay. Yep. Which is pretty typical for sculpture installation. And then my second question was the jellyfish that you kind of have hanging off the tentacles. Can you elaborate on what those would look like and the materials those would be made out of?
Yeah, so those would be like this, I'm hoping that they would be a community outreach kind of program where members of the community and or classrooms can construct their own jellyfish out of recycled goods. And then I can take them in and also light them. So we can get some L wire, which is like a very small strand of LEDs, take up very minimal power. But I thought that would be a great way for the community to also make their mark in this piece as well.
Yeah, and would you be providing any type of engagement with those community initiatives? Because I love the idea, but something that sometimes lacks in those initiatives is like professional direction to some leaders. Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. I actually hadn't thought about that. That's a great point. Because jellyfish are sort of organic in their own nature. I just figured they could make their own representation of the jellyfish. But yeah, no, that makes sense. I can make myself available for a class or a unit, or if the world is still on pause, we can do Zoom or what have you.
Okay. Yeah, that if this does move forward, I could just see maybe you presenting to a group of neighborhood leaders, like to the Green Bay Neighborhoods Committee or something like that, where you could provide your insight as an artist, and then they could ask you questions. But we would need some type of engagement. And if you're willing to do that, that answers my question.
Yeah, absolutely. We can create like a packet or something that has like some at the foundation of what you would adhere to, what you would use, like core elements that you would need in order to create these things. And then
cool.
Can you incorporate the other senses, like you actually get stung or zapped? I'm kidding.
I'm sure we could hook the solar to some local little tingle.
Oh, that's so funny.
Any other comments or questions for Brandon? Lynn?
Is that what's inside of the head or the mantle of the octopus? Is that like an earth? Or?
It's kind of a large ball of plastic bags, so it'd be hollow in the center and lit. It's fluffy. So it's kind of this juxtaposition of these hard, rigid materials, and then you've got this, like you would see in these jellies. They have that like soft flowing. I forget what it's called, but
goo.
Yeah, goo. I suppose I should speak to the idea that it's ambient LED lighting. So we'd be using, and it would connect in. And then in the other sculpture that I've done, we have it programmed to come on at 6, and then it goes off at midnight. So it would glow all the colors of the rainbow, nice and slow, it changed colors. And then we would incorporate touch function. So we're currently working on adding this touch anywhere technology to the sculpture we've done on 56 and North here in Milwaukee, where there's 4 buttons per wing, and each button that you touch changes a color of the feathers of the wing. So we'd like to incorporate that into the piece as well. So there'd be activation areas, and maybe that's, you know, in the jellies that the neighborhood makes, or and also the other tentacles that are in this jelly can change as well.
Thank you for that description. The plastic bags I like aesthetically. I think they look good. I do have a concern about the maintenance and whether or not you know, it's going to require maintenance to maintain that aesthetic quality moving forward. I love the concept of using recycled materials. I totally get what you're going after there. I love it. But like 2 years from now, with that big globe inside the mantle, like what can we expect that will look like? And maybe if there's any type of maintenance that might be required, more bags, or just wondering about that, the materials, longevity.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and as we know, plastic lasts forever. So it's not going to biodegrade on you, and it'll stay attached. But yeah, I do understand some of the concern, but the other, so some other artists have done recycled material, especially like using the plastic in bags and things. And I've seen them at SeaWorld, and they've been there for years and don't appear to have, you know, anything missing. And if there were any issues, you know, I'd make myself available to come out and take care of it.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a quick question about the solar component. I love the idea. I love the recycled materials. I love a lot of things about this project, actually. With it being kind of between 2 buildings, do you have any concerns about the ability to get sunlight with the solar panels? And if you've thought about ways to, I don't know, just enhance that?
Yeah, so in the park that we currently have our solar at, after we did the site visit, we were able to choose the location. So I think doing the site visit is going to help us figure that out. We really just need a south-facing unit. So that's something that, you know, we could mount toward the back of the building or the back of the area in the parking lot, or, you know, toward the front of the park as well. The nice thing about creating these solar panels and boxes is we have total aesthetic control over what they look like. So they could pretty much look like anything as long as they house the battery and the Raspberry Pi controller. And, you know, so it'll also look like as well.
Laura, do you think we would have approval from the building owner, the red brick building owner, to just put a solar panel on the roof, which would be optimal, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
They approved that, and Landmarks Commission didn't have any issues as far as anything being adhered to the tops of the buildings. So I definitely think that's an option.
Awesome. That was in my original proposal for the first site. I was just a little nervous to suggest that in this one because of the situation of not mounting anything to the building.
Yeah, I think the roof is definitely by far the best option here. Knowing that area, I'm a little bit concerned about being able to capture sunlight in that alley space. So yeah, roof would be best if we could do that.
Perfect.
Most of the questions that were asked so far kind of covered what the property owner was concerned about. One other thing that they were wondering, and this is, I mean, they're requesting as far as is something like, do you have concerns with this being climbed on? I know with public art, that's always a concern, and that you just can't control people. They're going to go where they want to go. But is that going to be an issue with this piece if children or people are climbing on it?
I don't think the climbing is going to be an issue because it'll be structurally sound. As far as like if someone were to get inside the inside the head of the jelly and start pulling at, you know, plastic bags or whatever, then maybe then we'd have a bigger problem. I think maybe as we, you know, travel concepts, we can create something more solid out of these plastic bags so that, you know, it's not necessarily something you can pull at or anything like that, you know?
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Any other questions for Brandon? Comments? Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is exciting. I think all the concepts are really great.
Yeah. So what should I close the floor to the artist so we can proceed?
Yeah.
Motion?
Unless anybody wants to hear from any other of the presenters, a motion to close the floor.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? All right. Thank you to the art. So, Laura, where do you want me to go with this? What's next? What kind of help do you need?
I mean, after you've heard from the artists, is there a real push towards a certain piece? I want to start getting into the nitty-gritty numbers, which honestly probably are not going to provide a lot of clarity because, like I said, they are very, very close. How would you guys like to proceed, I guess? Did the conversations with the artist kind of sway your ideas one way or the other?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that helped a lot. And maybe we can refer to the numbers, but ultimately I think it's just going to come from emotion to select a one piece. So, but I think knowing those numbers and kind of where that stacks up might provide us some insight. So yeah.
So let me understand. The assumption is that the city approves all three, and we can make that decision right now.
Correct.
Yeah, we need to select one, right?
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. As far as numbers go, out of the scoring matrices that you received, each proposal was rated on a scale of 100 points split up between various categories. So out of 100 points total, Salva Jelly Bloom received an average of 87.5. Wish Walk received a total point value of 86.75. And the Urban Garden received a point total average of 84.75. So yeah, like I said,
pretty close.
Not a whole lot of clarity. These are all of the proposals are very strong. And all of the artists should be really proud of what they've presented to us. With those numbers and with the conversations, I don't know how we want to whittle it down exactly, whether it's just going around the table and listing like our number one choice and then tallying up those options.
You know what would be helpful for me is if I can hear from Beth, if I can hear from Matt, just something. What do you guys think?
I can go here. I thought that the Wish Walk was the strongest conceptually. I just really like not only, I know Kelly alluded to it earlier, how we want more interactive pieces as far as in the city's portfolio of public art, which I think this hits on, but I also really liked how this project started with consideration of the buildings that it's next to and the timepiece. I thought it was a really good marriage between just kind of a modern execution with the styling of the Art Nouveau building, I guess. I don't know which one to call it, neighborhood, but I just thought that marrying those two together and all of the rationale that she provided with, especially the government employees kind of having that two choices every day, and just, I thought it was conceptually just very, very strong. And that's the one that I'm strongly leaning towards.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. That makes a lot of sense. I think all the proposals very strong, tough choice. But I agree with Matt. I like Wish Walk. I like how conceptually, at least in the renderings, how it's placed in between the buildings. I like its what I perceive as its durability. I like its diversity. I like its color. I think that so that's my number one choice. I do have to jump out at 9:15, so I'm glad we got to this point. But yeah, they're all neat, amazing pieces. So, but Wish Walk is my top.
Thank you. So,
sorry, Alex. I might just jump in with one comment here, if you don't mind.
No, please do.
I understand and I really appreciate Alder Gerlach's comment earlier about how Urban Garden is the most Green Bay option. I agree. I think one of the things that I was drawn about this whole project when we first were presented was there was that giant red ball was one option that we looked at. And there was a couple other options. And I think that the thought behind this project was we really wanted something that just stands out and is different. That's not Green Bay. So with that, I think my favorite option is probably the jellyfish. It's just out there and different, and I like that.
I'll go next. I'd be happy with any of the three. So I'm really happy. And frankly, I liked all five of them. I really, really liked the top three, and I'd be happy with any of them. I love the Green Bay feeling and the welcoming feeling of the urban garden, and the having all of the entities, birds or butterflies, whatever they end up being, if that's the one, I think would be very aesthetically impactful with the giant hair. I think is great. The engagement of the Wish Walk is something that I gave a lot of points to because it had more engagement, I think, than the other pieces did. And that's something that we need. And the creativity of the lights, I also think was very strong. And then the ambition of a giant jellyfish, just the shock value, like Matt had said, aesthetically, that would be very, very strong. And it's a really tough decision for me. My first choice would be the jellyfish.
Lynn, I think you gave us an opinion, right?
Oh, I can't begin to give you an opinion about which is the best three. I love them all. I just have one question. Is there any possibility that some of these that aren't chosen can be used in a future project for Green Bay?
I think so, and especially if RDA keeps giving us surprise money to use on art projects. I would love to see all of these happen. I mean, we have a lot of spaces within Green Bay that I think these would fit. And I mean, it's a few years off, but with our percent for art ordinance, we are going to be eventually getting in more of those funds to use on further art installations and murals and other types of public art as well. But that's a few years down the road yet.
Well,
I wanted to include, since Kelly isn't here, I said I would make her voice be heard. I know she didn't get to hear from the artist, so there is unfortunately that instance. But from her initial scores, Wish Walk and Urban Garden actually tied for first choices for her. So from what I've scribbled out here real quick, Matt Vanden Boomen, Beth Lemke, and Kelly Strickland, their first choice is Wish Walk. Matt Buchanan and Kent Hutchison's first choice is Salvage Jelly Bloom. And Lynn Gerlach and Kelly Strickland's second tie choice, I guess, is Urban Garden.
and of course, I'm not going to vote. I don't want to be involved in this.
I should also well, I mean, you didn't give me your scores, Alex. So
I did. I sent them out.
I couldn't find them.
Oh, I'm sorry. I really did send them out.
Give those to me real quick. What's your 1, 2, and 3?
Those were the top 3, and I think Jellyfish came up on top for me.
And I should also mention Salvage Jelly Bloom and Wish Walk were in the property owner's top 3 choices. Urban Garden was 4th, so they're all pretty agreeable with the property owner also.
Sorry, what did the property owners like?
The property owner picked Salvage Jelly Bloom as their first choice, Lift Off as their second choice, and Wish Walk as their third.
So where does this leave us, Laura?
With your new choice, well, we have 3 commissioners in favor of Salvage Jelly Bloom, 1 commissioner and 2 liaisons in favor of Wish Walk, and 2 commissioners, I guess if you split Kelly's vote, in favor of Urban Garden.
May I please, Alex, may I please clarify that I was not in any sense of the word voting. I was just giving you an overview. Please don't attach my name to anything. I feel that you folks are in a much better position to make this decision, and I'm happy with any one of the 3.
Thank you.
I'd just like to reply to that, Lynn. We really appreciate your input, and since you're on the commission now, we need to count your vote. And even if you're not, you don't consider yourself an artist, you probably are in the same category as a lot of people in Green Bay who are viewing our public art, and your input and opinion on these matters is really valuable, and we really appreciate it. So I just hope you don't not too hard on yourself. We really appreciate everything that you've said so far. So thank you very much.
So Laura, it sounds like we made a decision.
Sorry. I forget that I can't just talk into the void. I think based on kind of the scores that I've received so far and the communications from you guys today, Wish Walk and Salvage Jelly Bloom definitely seem to be in the top 1 and 2 choices. We need to select one.
We need a motion. So I'll make a motion, and according to the overall scores through the conversation and via the points, that the Salvage Jelly Bloom project should be our selection as the Green Bay Public Arts Commission for this alleyway project.
That's a motion? Do we have to second that, or how does?
I'll second that.
All those in favor of the jelly fish option as the first choice for this project?
Aye.
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 Aye. And Do we have to, is that it, or do we? Yep, Laura?
Are you voting on your in civic clerk?
Oh,
Or are we doing voice votes today?
I'm gonna go, can we just do voice? Is that possible?
It'll be a voice vote.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't had the option to vote, so. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, all your artists. It's so tough. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you very much to the artists. I will be following up with all of you in the email. I know this was a tough choice. I would have selected all of them if I had infinite cash.
Yeah.
Now we can move forward with the project.
Right. So what's the next thing on our agenda?
Next is section F, informational.
Is that you, Laura?
Yes, as far as coordinators report and project updates. Now that we've selected a piece, we can definitely move forward with this and hopefully still make it for that November deadline. In the future, I need to have more structure as far as how we use these funds. So I'm planning and working with staff in City Hall as far as developing a better system moving forward, more intentional with our art choices. One thing that I just wanted to mention, we're going to be partnering with Sage. They are putting on a quasi-virtual exhibit throughout the city. Sage is a local nonprofit arts organization that really fosters community through the arts, but they are doing an exhibit called Unity Plus Diversity. So artists submit artwork to Sage, and then Sage kind of acts as the matchmaker between local businesses, so coffee shops and small storefronts, and City Hall and the police department are going to be taking part in this exhibit, which I'm really excited about. So I'll be helping coordinate the installation of those pieces within City Hall and the police department. Even though City Hall is closed to the public, it's by appointment only at this point in time, I believe, unless that has been changed. We will definitely still make sure that that artwork gets out through social media and gets noticed. Other than that, thank you. Huge shout out to Alex for promoting our Art Around Town bingo and digital art map that we have. By the way, submissions are still open until the end of July. So if you haven't submitted your bingo sheet, please do so, because we are looking for more submissions, and you have a chance to win Green Bay swag from the Green Bay Swag Shop.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, that's about all that I have going on.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I think I'm going to do a motion to end the meeting, unless. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Laura.
I just wanted to mention that our next meeting will be August 26th. It most likely will be virtual once again. We have a system set up so far, so I think why mess with a good thing?
Okay. Post adjournment, is it possible to stick around just for a moment to get to know Lynn just a touch? Lynn, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to adjourn this meeting, and if other people can stick around.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? All right. It's 9:24. Thank you.